Hi, and welcome to our webinar today. We're going to have guest speaker Bill Cook speak in just a minute on discovering real estate options. My name is Larissa Greene. I'm going to get us started with some information on self-directed IRAs in case you're not familiar, if you're joining us for the first time, and then I'll hand everything over to Bill. I know everybody's anxious to get started hearing about real estate options. I apologize for our delay. We were just having a little bit of issue with our audio, so we're going to go ahead and jump right in. Again, my name is Larissa Greene. I'm with Advanta IRA, and I do education, business development, marketing, and networking for Advanta. I've been in this role since probably about 2013. I started with Advanta in 2011, and so in my 12 plus years with Advanta, I've done all different jobs and helped out in all different departments with Advanta. I started out doing things like coding checks as we receive income for IRA accounts. I've opened accounts. I've helped with transferring cash in and out of accounts at Advanta. I've helped people with their transactions, and the list goes on. But I really enjoy my role now and where I've been really for the last 10 years in education and business development. I've learned a lot, and I've met so many great people who I have learned from. So Bill is actually one of them. So I'm excited to have him on today. If you have any questions on self-directed retirement accounts, my contact information is here. Please let me know. We are going to take questions throughout the webinar, but I'm sure they'll be directed towards Bill. So if you have any questions about self-directing your account, please feel free to reach out to me. Advanta IRA has been in business over 20 years now, and we have over $2.5 billion in assets under management. But really what makes us unique compared to our competitors is everybody receives a dedicated account manager. So you have somebody to reach out to, whether you're paying a bill for an asset owned by your IRA, making an investment, asking about distributions, you have one point of contact. And I think that really helps our clients because they know, one, who to reach out to, and two, it gives them the opportunity to build a relationship with the person that's really ultimately going to be assisting them with their account. And we have two offices. We're in the Tampa Bay area of Florida and the Atlanta area of Georgia, but we can help clients not only nationwide, but worldwide as well. So if you have a US-based retirement account, you can self-direct that. And so if anybody has questions, let me know. Something that we're going to talk about today is an investment strategy that Bill's going to walk us through. He's going to give us examples. We're going to talk a little bit about what you can and can't do in an IRA, but just keep in mind that Advanta does not provide any legal tax or investment advice. We do talk a lot about the rules for self-directing your retirement account, but ultimately you want to make sure that you're checking in with your professional team, your attorneys, your accountants, your financial advisors before making investments. If you don't have somebody to turn to, we might be able to refer you to some professionals that our clients have worked with in the past. Please let us know. So just very quickly, again, I know we're all here to listen to Bill tell us about options, but just very quickly, if you're not familiar with a self-directed IRA, or maybe you've heard that term used a little bit differently than we use it, a self-directed IRA at Advanta is actually an account that holds private investments. So really anything outside of the market. We're not competing with your brokerage firm. We don't hold stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. We simply work with individuals who want to invest in things like real estate and mortgages, deeds of trust, private placements, and precious metals. Really, the list goes on and on. But we don't sell anything at all. We simply hold the account. You find the investment, and then we help you get it done in the name of the retirement account so that your retirement account can retain its tax status and can grow tax deferred or tax free depending on the type of account. So that's really what we do. We help you truly diversify. We help you invest in what you know best. Types of plans that can be self-directed. I always like to go over this one before we dive into the topic of the day, because a lot of times people think that it has to be a Roth IRA if you're self-directing, and I'm not really sure where that comes from. That's actually not true. Anything ending in IRA can be self-directed, and then there's other types of accounts that we can hold for you as well. So traditional and Roth IRAs, those are going to be the most common types of investments that we see. We also see employer-based IRAs, SEP IRAs, and simple IRAs. Any old employer plan can be self-directed, so that could be anything like a 401k, a 403b, even a TSP. Those just simply go into an IRA with the same tax status so that they can be self-directed. We can also help you with a solo or individual 401k. And we hold health savings accounts and education savings accounts. The rules for self-directing these are exactly the same, and so we can hold those and help you make those investments that you choose. So with that summary, I am going to introduce you to Bill Cook. He's going to talk today about options, and he has a class that's coming up as well that he's going to tell us about. So this is sort of a preview to his class on options coming up in February. And as I mentioned, we're going to take questions throughout the webinar. Please feel free to type them into the question box, and we're going to get them answered as we go. I also did upload the slides for you to download. So if you check out the right-hand navigation of your GoToWebinar panel, you're going to see handouts there. You can download the slides so that you can review them and take notes and things of that nature. The question box is going to be in that right-hand navigation panel as well. And I'm going to turn it over to Bill. Hey, Bill, how are you today?
I am doing great, Larissa. And you made one mistake when you said we were having technical difficulties. Folks, Larissa was not having any technical difficulties whatsoever. However, the other half of the call was having a lot of difficulties. Right now, I'm sitting at the Bradenton Yacht Club for the Bradenton RIA meeting. And I had to come out to the car because there was no place in there to do this meeting from. And Pete Fortunato is speaking today. So I wanted to be in there, but I'm doing this from here. So I got a laptop, Wi-Fi, cell phone, and Larissa was holding my hand. And while we're talking about Larissa, I want everybody, all the decision makers, the people who run Advanta, I want them to know without a doubt that I'm here because of Larissa and her great service and her follow-up. And she's always there. I've known Larissa probably for, I'm guessing 8 years now. I forgot when we first met, Larissa, but I've known you for a very long time. And you have been so dependable and so important to me and Kim. And I would not be here without you. So thank you very much for all you've done for us.
Well, thank you so much, Bill. I really appreciate it. That's very kind. You always have such kind things to say. I appreciate it so much. I do.
You're in law.
Turn red.
It's okay. So let's go ahead and let's talk about options now. So let's talk about what to know about options, because most people, what they know about options is simply when you use an option with a lease, and that's known as a lease option. And everybody kind of thinks that's a single deal structuring tool, when in fact it's two tools working together, a lease, which gives someone use of the property, and then an option that gives someone the right to buy the property at some point in the future for pre-agreed to price and terms. But today we're going to be not talking strictly about the option side of that, not about the lease. Okay, so an option is an advanced deal structuring tool. It's not really for beginners, and it's more of a long-term play. It's a long-term type investment, as you're going to see. And options are not, they're not only a valuable tool in almost every real estate investing transaction, but quite often they're the best tool for among all the tools that are available to us as creative deal makers. And a good example is, I cannot tell you the last time I did a deal where some sort of option work was not included in the deal. And it may be an option to extend a balloon, or an option to modify a payment, or an option to purchase, a buyback option. And anyway, so they're used often. It's just, like I said, it's more of an advanced tool. So in the next 45 minutes, we'll look at just the tippy top of the power of options. So you got to think like an iceberg. And what we're going to touch on is the very, very tippy top of what options can do. So don't think we're going to get done today and you're going to say, oh, I've got the full view of options, but I am going to show you a way that you can get a much deeper understanding of options. Think. So one of the ways is we have been starting last Wednesday. We're doing something called a free options deal school. And it's going to be on January the 10th, which that was last Wednesday, then January the 17th, which is tomorrow, and then January the 24th. And this is a free deal school. It starts at 7 p.m., ends at 8 p.m. Eastern time, and often we do a Q&A session after 8 p.m. So anybody that wants to stay on. And to register, you can go to our website at billandkimcook.com. Also, we're recording this, and you can see last week's class. It's on our website already. Think. And as I said, all three classes will be recorded, and you can see the classes by going to our website. we also have a YouTube channel where you'll see it. YouTube channel is Bill and Kim Cook, and then our Facebook page is Bill and Kim Cook. And the topics we're covering, last Wednesday, we talked about things to know about options. So I kind of explained what options were. And you're going to see a couple of the slides, the two deals that I used last week are in the slides you'll see today. And then tomorrow night, we'll talk about things option can do that most people aren't even aware of. And then next Wednesday, we'll talk about the different types of options. People think there's just one type of options, when in fact, there's like 7 different types, and each one does something specific. And you use the option you need to get the job done that you need to get done. So you need to first understand what needs to be done, and then you pick the option that will work best to get that done. So now let's we're going to be looking at 2 deals today. One was done outside my self-direct account, my self-directed 401k account. The other was done inside the account. So the first one will be outside. The second one will be where I'm actually using a retirement account, a self-directed retirement account, and that will be William Street. So this is Waterford subdivision, and this is the most valuable option that I hold. And this is not, when I say it's in the Waterford subdivision, you have to understand that most of my investing is done in Cartersville, Georgia, within a 5-mile circle around the Cartersville, Georgia Walmart. And Waterford subdivision is the subdivision to live in Cartersville. It's on the river. It's high end, $700,000 to $1.5 million. That sort of subdivision, really nice. So this is not a picture of the house. Because this is an ongoing deal, I don't give the street name because of privacy. So let's look at how we got this deal and what's made it so valuable. See? So this property, the one in Waterford, in 2006, before the Great Recession, sold for $600,000. And in 2010, in just the heat of the middle of the Great Recession, Kim and I bought this at the foreclosure auction for $140,000. And yeah, if you've only been investing since 2012 or 2013, you're thinking, how do you ever get prices like these? Well, when absolutely nobody's buying houses, you'd be surprised what you could buy houses for. So we bought it for $140,000, and the property was in really good shape. We did about a $30,000 rehab, replacing some carpet and going to granite countertops, things like that. But the all-in cost, what we had in it, our money in it, was $170,000 total. And we listed it with our realtor, Bonnie Mullinex, and we decided the asking price should be $260. So this was going to be a really good payday when we flipped this house. So this was going to be a straight flip. So we were doing an open house here. This was the first weekend, and we usually do open houses when we have a house on the market, 1 to 4 on Saturday. I'm sorry, 12 to 3 on Saturday, and 1 to 4 on Sunday. That's just normal. And I love doing open houses because oftentimes people who show up, they're needing to sell their house first before they can buy your house. Well, I find most of our deals by door knocking. And that means I'm out, going house to house to house and knocking on a lot of doors. But to sit in a house with chocolate chip cookies being made in the oven, with a nice glass of cold milk in the refrigerator, and the sellers are coming to me, I absolutely adore that. That's why I like open houses so much. It's a great way to find people who want to sell a house, get down their name and address, and then go see them after the open house is over. But anyway, at this particular open house, we had 2 full-priced offers handed to us. 2. So, I mean, we were very excited. Kim was ecstatic. And while this was being done, we had already signed on these 2. We didn't sign, but we got them. We received them. Thank you very much. Full-priced offers. And both sets of sellers were in the house. And I was sitting on the island in the kitchen, and they were kind of circling me, one on one side, one on the other. They didn't want the other to get the deal. But there was a nice young couple who was also there, and they were like in their early 30s, maybe like late 20s. And I thought to myself, they really don't belong here because they're not going to be of the age that can afford a house like this. And I talked to them, and again, it turns out they were like 30, 31, and they had 2 kids. And I said, well, what are you looking for? And she said, well, we live in New Harley, which is about 20 minutes away, and they're looking for something to be closer to her parents. And I said, well, where do your folks live? And the girl said, well, my parents live 2 doors away. I said, really, that close? She said, yeah. So when we have to do something with our kids, either we have to bring them to mom and dad's or they have to come get them, and then back and forth, 40 minutes at the minimum, but more like an hour round trip. It just has gotten to be too much, and we need to be, somewhere closer. And I said, well, does this house interest you? And she just kind of laughed. She goes, oh, I'd love to have it. But no, she said, we're qualified for a $175,000 mortgage, and that's the most we can get, so we can come nowhere close to buying this house. And basically, the property, our property, was way, way, way too expensive for them. So what you're about to see is me to use an option in order to help someone buy a house for a price buy a house they can't possibly afford for a price they can afford. And I've done this technique many times over the years. It's just one of the ways I use options, but it's worked really well for us. In fact, if you one of the calls we did before for Advanta, we talked about selling the ranch, our horse ranch, in 2018, and it was the same thing. We sold a $500,000 house for $300,000. And you might say, why did you do that? Well, options allowed us to do that, and it was a really good deal for us. So it may look like we lost 200,000, but we did not. So as I'm talking to them, I realize there's a great opportunity here. And I said, can we go talk to your parents? Are they home? And the daughter said, yeah, they're home. Now you got to remember, we had 2 full priced offers in hand. And at the time in 2010, our money was out. We didn't have money to go play with. And Kim had been using Walmart toilet paper for quite a while. And Kim hates Walmart toilet paper. And she said, when we sell this house, the Waterford house, she was going to go buy a case of that fluffy Charmin toilet paper, and she was going to be very happy. And so when I looked at her and said, hey, honey, I'm going to go with these folks. We're just going to go down the street. I'll be back. She knew something was up, and she was not happy. She's like, no, you got to stay here. I said, I'll be right back. She goes, no, you can't go. We have 2 full priced offers. You can't go. And so as I walked out the door, I knew I was making her very, very angry. But we kind of went next door. Then we sat down at the kitchen table with the daughter's mom and dad, and it was the 5 of us sitting at the table. And when we sat at the table, I started asking a lot of questions so I could really understand the problem with her living in New Harley and the parents living in Waterford, what was going on as far as how long it took to go backwards and forwards, what their financial situation was. I got a good feel, and I liked the mom and dad a lot. And the daughter and her husband were also very nice, but I really linked up with the dad. He just, he was a good businessman, sharp guy. I liked him a lot. And so basically, I looked at the daughter after I got the information I needed. I said, what if you could buy our house for $170,000? Would that work for you? I mean, she just about exploded. She goes, are you kidding me? Yes. But as she's talking to me, her dad said, wait, what's the catch? And I said, well, the catch is I get the right to buy the house back from your daughter anytime I want in the next 30 years for $170,000. So I'm going to sell it to them for $170,000. They're qualified for $175,000 mortgage so they can buy it, but I have the right to buy it back anytime for the $170,000. And the dad looked at his daughter and said, honey, don't do it. At the time, for about 13 years, I wrote a weekly real estate investing newspaper column that was syndicated in Georgia. And one of the places where it ran was the Carsville newspaper. And he told his daughter, he goes, I read this boy's column all the time. And I've seen him do other deals like this. He said, don't do this. It just doesn't make any sense. You're not going to get any of the appreciation on that property, so I don't think you should do it. And I looked at his daughter. I said, your dad's absolutely right. He's a very smart man. I said, but you know what? You will be able to buy a house that you can't possibly afford for a price you can easily afford. I said, that is possible here. And then I turned to the dad and I said, you're absolutely right that they're going to give up all the appreciation, but let's look at what really is valuable here. And I said, you're thinking this in terms of yields and returns. And I said, have you thought about how valuable it would be for you to have your grandkids, both of your grandkids, living right next door to you, 2 doors away? So when they get off the school bus every day, they can come just walking into your house. and you're going to have all this extra time with them that you never would have had. You're going to be able to affect their lives, to teach them life lessons that are very, very important. You know, but if they're not 2 doors away, you're giving that up. Have you thought about what the value of that is? I got to tell you, it got real quiet around that table because I shut up. And we just looked at each other. And he finally looked at his daughter and said, take the deal. So that was the value to them, was to have the grandkids next door. So we sold our house for $170,000, and that's exactly what we had in it. So there's no tax hit. So we paid 170 total. We sold it for 170. We're good. And at closing, we received a secured option. So in other words, a right to buy the property back anytime in the next 30 years for $170,000. But the one thing they asked for is they want to be able to stay in the house long enough to get their kids out of high school. And that was going to take about, I think it was 13 years, 14 years, something like that. And so we agreed that we would have the 30-year option, but we wouldn't exercise the option for the first 15 years. And so that was our agreement. And then we used a deed of trust to secure that option to the property. I won't have time to talk about why we did it that way, but I will have to do, when we do deal school, you'll hear me talk about how to secure options. So let's move forward to today. And this is why this has been a really good deal for us and why this is the most valuable option we hold. Today's fair market value on this property is $700,000. And the equity we have in it, the value of this option is $530,000. So, you take the $700,000 that it's worth, take off the 170, which is our strike price to buy it back, and that's $530,000 sitting there waiting to be harvested. And as the current yield on this right now is a little over 10%. But you know what? Right now, we don't have any money in this deal, do we? Because remember, we had 170 in it. They bought it from us for 170, so we got all our money back. Now, Kim didn't get that Charmin toilet paper she wanted. She's kept on using Walmart toilet paper. But when she looks back at this deal now, $530,000 buys a whole lot of Charmin. And so the yield as it stands right now is infinite. Now, when we do exercise our option, then yes, we will have we will have some sort of yield. So do you see how we use the option to capture the property's appreciation? By saying we'll buy it for $170,000 anytime in the next 30 years, as that property goes up in value, right? When we did this, it was worth $260, but now it's climbed to $700, and 5 years from now, it may be $800,000-900,000. But we're capturing all that appreciation. But options can also allow you to capture the amortization on a property. And the way I could capture amortization, instead of my strike price, my purchase price, being $170,000, what if I would have said my purchase price would be the then balance of the mortgage? Remember, they were going to get a $170,000 mortgage. And then with each monthly payment they make, their balance drops down. My purchase price would be whatever the balance is on their mortgage when I decide to exercise. And we already know I can't exercise for the first 15 years. And so I may go 27, 28, 29 years, but let's say it goes the full 30 years and they got a 30-year mortgage. You see that the purchase price for the then balance of the mortgage would be at zero or really close to zero. That's what I would pay them for that house. And that's how I could capture the amortization in addition to the appreciation. I know that kind of warps people's minds, but we do these deals pretty regular. So do options have a value? And the answer is, let's think about all the things we could do with this option. So the option you're looking at, we just looked at, I can continue to hold it and let it appreciate. So yeah, that has value. But could I sell this option to another investor? Maybe another investor would want to buy this property at some point. Yes. And if I need money, can I borrow money using this option as collateral for the loan of me borrowing the money? The answer is yes. And might one day, and this is what happens to most of our options, might the option or the daughter and the son-in-law who gave us this option when we bought the property, might they come to us and say, hey, listen, we really don't want you to buy our house. What would it take to make you cancel the option? Now that's a whole different type of conversation. And it'd be a question, something like what Pete says is, well, how badly? Do you want me to cancel the option? In other words, they're going to pay me to go away. Now, I do not ever have that conversation with an optionor when we're doing the deal. I tell them I plan on buying the property. I plan on making an obscene profit. But somewhere down the line, oftentimes, the person who owns the home will come to me and say, what will it take you to cancel the option? Would you take something for this? I can say yes or no, my choice. So it's just one of the many option deals we've done over 2 decades. Now, would it be beneficial to you to use this structuring tool in some future deal? Do you see where maybe this can work for you somewhere down the line? And do you want to learn? Does it make you want to learn more about options? After watching this deal, you have a lot of questions. First question, what if the owner changes their mind and refuses to sell you the property? What if the owner wants to sell their property before your option expires or before you're ready to exercise your option? Next question, what if the owner tries to refinance their property? Now, my secured option is in the way. So what's going to happen when they try to refinance the property? Next question, what if the owner gets foreclosed on? What if this nice young couple, something happens where they're not able to make the mortgage payments? What happens? Next question. What if they don't take care of the property? What if you went by this property and the shingles are coming off and the gutters hanging down and broken windows? What can you do then? Next slide. So it's good that you have lots of questions, and especially these questions. And it means that you do want to learn about more about options, that you're interested in them. And I was the same way in 1999. That's when I took my first Jack Miller seminar, my first lesson on options, and immediately I was hooked. I knew I could work with this tool and loved options. So for you to learn more about options, you can go to our three free option deal schools that I talked about earlier, and you'll pick up a lot more information. So let's answer some basic questions about options. So what makes an option and powerful, and what makes them what is an option? What makes it so powerful? So simply put, an option is a right to buy a property rather than an obligation. So think about the option you just saw. So I do have the right to buy that property, but I'm not going to ever be forced to buy that property. So if I don't ever buy it, the thing I'm walking away from is the $170,000 I paid. But remember, they bought the house for me, so I got my $170,000 back. And the consideration to get this option was I agreed to sell them a $270,000 house for $170,000. I didn't give them any money. I just gave them a really good deal, and they consider that of great value. So I have no money in this deal. So if I decide not to buy it, I can just walk away. Now, do I give up all the appreciation? Yes. Said a different way, with an option, it's a case of you can buy versus you must buy. And oftentimes when I want to test out, drive a property, I'm not sure where the economy is going, I'd rather have the right to buy it than be forced to buy it. I'd rather wait and see what's going to happen with the market. So I'm more than likely will do maybe a lease with an option to purchase or something like that. Next slide. An option is a great advanced deal structuring tool, and you can use it. And Kim and I have used it whether we're buying a property. So you're about to you haven't seen that yet. And I won't cover that in this presentation, but you did watch me use an option to sell a property. I also use it when I'm renting a property. Said an option is a great advanced deal structuring tool, and you can use it whether you're buying a property, which you haven't seen, but you did watch me use an option to sell a property. And I can also use it when I'm wanting to rent a property, whether I'm renting to a tenant or I'm renting from the owner, or when I'm just speculating, when I think maybe something's going to go commercial or something's going to happen with the property, Walmart's going to come in. I will wait to buy the property until after that event has happened, but I use an option to secure my right to buy it at a pre-agreed to price for pre-agreed to terms. So here's a biggie, and this is how I use options most of the time. An option is not a loan. It can be, I can't overstress this enough because it's one of the great benefits that options will give me. And it's a great benefit to the property owner. So most of us know that if I'm dealing with a homeowner that lives in their house, making a loan to a civilian, an owner occupant, is probably not a really good idea because of Dodd-Frank. However, what if I were to buy an option so it gave me the right to buy their house one day in the future? Let's say they need a new roof. It costs $10,000. I agreed to put a new roof on their house. And again, that roof would cost me $10,000. But in return, I got an option to be able to buy their property, pre-agreed to price, pre-agreed to terms. That $10,000 or that roof, actually, I wouldn't give them the $10,000. I'd actually put the roof on the house. They don't owe me anything for it. It's not a loan, no payments, no payback. It's what I gave in exchange for the right to buy their property. Simple as that. So this is not a loan. Don't think of an option as a loan. Don't treat it like a loan. It's where I'm actually buying something of value from the owner, which is the right to buy their property. An option can work hand in hand with your Advanta self-directed account. So you're about to watch how you can use your self-directed retirement account and options together. So this is William Street. And I found this when I was door knocking. This was in Cartersville, Georgia area. So this was a case, the owner's problem with this property was they could no longer afford to pay the property taxes. And this was done in 2020. And I think you know a lot of people that since 2015, their property taxes have gone way up and their insurance has gone way up. This is a technique that Kim and I use regular now, because when I'm talking to someone who has a house or they don't want to sell. So this is someone who definitely doesn't want to sell, but maybe I can step in and help them keep their house. So let's take a look at this deal. So when I was door knocking, I was just going through a neighborhood. There were a couple homes that were for sale or for rent. So I was stopping at those houses, but I was also knocking on the doors in between those houses. So when I knocked on this door, my approach was, I said, hey, my name is Bill. And I got to tell you, this doesn't sound crazy, but I love your house. I love the street. I love the subdivision. My wife and I would love to own a home here. Do you know anybody who's thinking about selling? And the man, he was on his front porch, just kind of lowered his head a little bit. And he said, yeah, me. I think I'm going to have to sell one day pretty soon. Now, he wasn't happy about it. You could see it in his body language. You could hear it in his voice. He wasn't happy. And I said, well, that raised the curiosity bug, right? And I asked, well, why? Why are you needing to, why will you be selling such a nice house like this? And he said, because I can't afford to pay the property taxes. My wife and I bought this house, about 10 years ago. And this is it was longer than that. It was like 15 years ago. And we were going to be in this house, forever, until we moved down to Florida or something. And we have 5 years left on the mortgage, but we just can't afford the property taxes. We're on fixed income, and it's just gotten to be too much for us. And I said, well, do you actually want to sell the property? And he goes, no, I don't want to sell. I'm going to have to sell. And I said, would you trade me a glass of sweet tea to find out how you can keep your home, not sell it, and not pay property taxes ever again? And he looked at me and said, what's the catch? I said, cost you a glass of sweet tea, and we need to sit at the kitchen table. So he invited me in. I sat with he and his wife, and I want to show you the conversation we had. So what you're looking at now is something called the T-bar. And this is by far the most important document I use as a real estate investor. Nothing else comes close. So when I'm sitting talking to a seller, this is what I do. I ask them for a sheet of paper. I put a great big T on it. Left-hand side at the top, it says current position. Right-hand side at the top, it says potential position. And then I just start asking questions. And I ask a lot of questions. So these are just some of the answers he gave me. So what I learned from him was that he doesn't want to sell right now. His property taxes are too high. I said, well, why don't you fight your property taxes? He goes, well, I don't know how. You can't fight City Hall and win. And he said, I can't afford to pay the property taxes, so I can't afford the home anymore. And I said, well, do you want to move? He goes, no, we don't want to move. The whole time I'm asking him questions, I'm doing arrows to the right hand, pointing to the right. And people always ask, how do I know how to creatively structure a deal? And the answer is, the seller tells me how to structure it. They tell me what they need. They tell me where it hurts. They tell me the problems that need to be solved. And I now want to figure out, okay, here are his problems, and I need to come up with these solutions. So this is the right-hand side. So when he said, I don't want to sell right now, I wrote down on the sheet of paper, you don't have to sell right now. And he said, my property taxes are too high. Right-hand side, we can lower your property taxes. I've been fighting property taxes for over 20 years, and I'm really good at it. I love fighting property taxes, as a matter of fact. Left-hand side, I don't know how to fight my property taxes. Right-hand side, I do this for 20 years. Left-hand side, we can't afford to pay our property taxes. Right-hand side, this is what's going to get most people. You never have to pay property taxes again. Left-hand side, we don't want to move. Right-hand side, you don't have to move. Do you think this got his attention? Now, as I'm doing this, again, I'm looking at the right-hand side now going, okay, I've got to make the right-hand side happen. And then he has a choice. He can stay on the left-hand side, his current position, or he can say yes to whatever offer I'm going to come up with. And if he does that, then he can move to the right-hand side. That's his potential position. The question is, will he be willing to accept my offer and move to the right-hand side? And some people will and some people won't. Next slide. So this is how we structure the deal. The fair market value in 2020 on this house was $175,000. And I agreed to fight their property taxes. And I agreed to pay his property taxes from now on. He never had to pay property taxes again. In return, they give us a 30-year option for the right to buy their house for the $175,000. So in other words, he captured all the appreciation this house has had since he bought it. But from this day forward, I'm going to capture that appreciation. Now, here's a kicker. You may never have thought of this. This is why I said options are so powerful. For each $1 Kim and I spend in property taxes to pay their property taxes, the strike price, our purchase price, is reduced by $1.50. In other words, I'm getting a 50% return on my money for every dollar I spend. That's a pretty good return on my money. And same thing as with the last couple. He wanted to be here at least another 10 years. So we agreed, even though we had the 30-year option, we agreed to not exercise the option for the first 10 years. Next slide. So remember, this is the T-bar. And I knew what to do. I knew how to do that offer because the owner told me how to structure it. And all my structure did is solve the owner's problems and moved him to the right-hand side, moved her to the right-hand side. That's all that happened here. And I'm going to use the tools at my disposal. And the only tool that would work was an option. Because remember, they didn't want to sell their property. They wanted to stay there. And the option tool allowed me to do this. Next slide. So this is called a strategic option. And I said at the very beginning of this program that IRAs work really, really well with long-term investments. So right now, the owner doesn't want to sell. That's great. So that's what made it a long-term option. And for us, we were just thinking, okay, this would be a long-term hold for us, but we'd be capturing all the appreciation this property has. That's pretty doggone good. And this would be a perfect type of option for our self-directed retirement account. So let's look at the numbers. Next slide. So today, the current fair market value on this home is $240,000. And my Roth IRA has paid a grand total of $4,800 in property taxes. Think about that. Then again, the money to pay the property taxes is coming out of my IRA. So the strike price now for this home is no longer 175, it's 167,800. So it's dropped by $7,200. Remember, for every dollar I paid in property taxes, which is 4,800, I get 1.5 times that off the strike price. So this option that I've spent $4,800 on now controls $7,200 in equity. Not bad, huh? So the 4,800 is generated the $7,200 in equity. I haven't cashed it in yet, but when I finally do, this will be a tax-free equity because it's going to be in my Roth IRA, and the yearly return right now is almost 70%. Not bad. Again, good long-term investment. Next slide. And can you imagine what this deal will look like 6 years from now? Because this property is, continues to go up in value. So here are three other ways that Kim and I use options. Number one is when we want to protect our free and clear properties. People always say, well, if you have free and clear, isn't that dangerous? And the answer is yes. And most people think they should get a loan against it to wipe out the equity. But there's another thing you can do that's safer than a loan, and that's to have an option secured to your property. So when the number two is when we want to buy a property that will require a lot of time, effort, and money before buying it. And Kim and I are closing on a deal, I think this Friday or this Monday in Tampa, and that's exactly what happened. This was a case where they were going to lose the house at a property tax auction on December the 21st. And we had this property under a purchase and sale agreement in October, but because of a number of issues, we were not going to be able to get this property closed before the December 21st property tax auction. That needed to be paid off early, which was going to be about $13,000. And the only way I would agree to pay their property taxes early and stop the property tax auction was if we switched from a purchase and sale agreement to a 30 or maybe a 50-year, I forgot what it was, 30 or 40-year option to buy that property for our purchase price. Then and only then would I go pay off the property taxes, and the consideration for that option was the $13,000 plus to bring their property taxes current. And that we did pay that. We did get the option. We did secure it to the property using a mortgage, and this was done in Tampa. And again, we're doing this deal right now. Number three is when we want to buy a property, but we're unsure of the property's cash flow or future appreciation or the market or what's going on in the area. In that case, I probably will do something like a master lease with an option to buy it at some point in the future after whatever changes are coming, they've already occurred. So in other words, the property's already gone up in value, then I'll exercise my option. Next slide.
And Bill, before we go on, we did have a question pop up. What happens if the owners pass away before the 10 years, like in the previous example? If they passed away, would you put in a clause that allows you to exercise the option up to the death of the owners?
No, I don't have to put that in there. What it says is my option, the option when they sign it, it also gives is also for their heirs, assigns. Anybody that comes after them has to honor the same agreement that I have with the owners of the property. Good question, though.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, most of our options are found by knocking on homeowners' doors. So I'm a door knocker, and I've done this all my life since I was 12 years old. I've knocked on people's doors, being invited in. It's all I've ever done. And so where do we door knock? I usually work a concentrated area. Right now, I'm working in the Nokomis, Venice area. It's a rectangle. And that's where I've been knocking doors. And so what do I look for? I just made an options offer on a property like 2 days ago. And in their case, they had a bad roof because there was a very old blue tarp being held in place by sandbags, but it was a weather tarp. And so I stopped and put together an option offer for them. I've not heard back from them. They weren't home. I put it in their door. But I just see something like a gutter hanging down or something needs to be done, and the people don't have the money for it. So again, when I do option work, it's not a loan to the homeowner. I'm purchasing the right to buy their house. So it is not a loan. Dodd-Frank does not come into play. And if you want to watch what it's like when I door knock, I just started on something called, I'm making 1,000 written offers down here in 2024. And most of them will come from door knocking. And I'm taking a picture of every offer I make. I'm going to group them in groups of 25. So offers 1 through 25, offers 26 through 50, offers 51 through 75, and so on. And I'll shoot some videos and take pictures of the offers and what I'm seeing when I'm out door knocking or when I'm out making written offers, and then drop in some other lessons along the way. So you'll find these videos. The first one will be up by this Friday. But you can go watch the offers I'm making. And our website is billandkimcook.com. But follow along with me. I'm turning 64 this year. So I'm an old guy out knocking doors, doing deals. And let's see what happens over the course of 1,000 written offers. You know, how many deals will I find? How many options will I do? How many loans? How many things will I participate in? I have no idea, but I'm real excited about this. Call this my last hurrah. I wanted to do this so people can understand what it takes to succeed as a real estate investor, and it takes a lot of hard work. It takes making a lot of written offers. So, like I said, the first video will go up this Friday. Next slide. So remember, I'm going to be doing the free deal schools, and I did the first one last Wednesday. I'll do another one tomorrow night, and then another one on the 24th. It starts at 7 p.m., ends at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We had a bunch of people who came online at exactly 8 p.m. last Wednesday because they were Central Time. So to register for the free deal school, just go to our website at Bill and Kim Cook. You'll see a link where you can get registered. So this is leading up to a 2-day seminar I'm going to be teaching called the Power of Options Seminar. I'll be teaching in Tampa, Florida, and you can attend in person or on Zoom, and it will be recorded. So the cost is $597. That's the early bird special. I think the early bird special ends on January the 28th, and it goes up to $697. You can bring a guest at $397, and this will be where I have 2 days to really go into detail. The manual is over 300 pages. Plus, you get all the documents I use. Plus, you'll see tons and tons of deals that I've done. Lots of different ways using options. Next slide. That might be the last slide. That is the last slide. So now I'd be happy to answer any questions people have. And I hope that you got a lot of good information from this. And I understand that options are much more of an advanced creative deal structuring tool. Now, if you're brand new, this is not for you. But if you've been investing for a while and you have, you have some deals behind you, this might be a really great tool to add to your creative deal structuring toolbox.
And we did have a question pop up. They mentioned that they're a little nervous dealing with civilians other than rentals. Can you discuss maybe some scenarios where you would use them with investor friends using your IRAs?
Okay, so repeat the question one more time. I didn't quite understand it.
Yeah, he's basically saying that he doesn't necessarily want to deal with civilians, but is
Okay.
there opportunity to use options in your Roth IRAs when you're dealing with investors, so other investor friends?
Yeah, so let's do an example of a deal I did with Melvin. And I think I'll go over this deal I think tomorrow night, or maybe it's going to be next Wednesday. But Melvin wanted to buy a mobile home park in Rome, Georgia, and he needed a loan. And we agreed to loan him the money. And I think it was 13% and 3 points, or 13% and 4 points. Forgot what it was, but we made him the loan. But in addition, because he's never done a mobile home park before, and Kim and I have done a lot of mobile homes, and we own a mobile home park. And so I said, the only way this is going to get done is if you bring me in as part of the deal. And so in addition to making the loan to him to buy the mobile home park, he also granted us the right to buy a 10% interest in the property anytime we want to over the next 50 years. And the cost to buy into 10% ownership in the park is $1,000. That was it. And so that was me working with an investor friend. And that is an extremely valuable option that we have on that park. And I used a number of my Advanta accounts when I did this deal. So I did not have all the money in one account to do this loan that the investor needed. So involved in this loan, and this is for those of you who are new, this might blow your mind, but my Advanta Roth IRA account was one of the lenders. My 401k, solo 401k account was involved. Kim's solo 401k is involved, and my Advanta self-directed HSA account was involved, plus my investment account that is outside of Advanta, that was involved. Now there was no wrapping going on. Each one is getting a percentage of the deal. Everybody's getting the same interest, same points. So there's steps you got to follow to do this. but that involved every account I had and took every account I had down to zero, because I hate having money in my retirement accounts, because that means it's not making money. So whenever I get any money in there, I'm going to go put it to work lending, usually through a wrap, or doing an option deal, or lending and an option deal combined. And you will see Melfin's deal when I teach the options class on April 3rd, 3rd and 4th. That is in the manual, and you'll see
February.
from one end to the other in February. February 3rd and 4th.
We had another question pop up just right along the lines of, the deals that you're doing. Are you using specialized attorneys to draft your paperwork?
I've drafted my paperwork, and I took it to, when I did my paperwork, you have to understand, I didn't invent options. I learned my option work from Jack Miller. He started doing options. I think he was the very first to do option work with single family houses back in like the mid 1970s. And then I think the first options class he taught was around 1978. And his manual was exactly 4 pages. And he's a prolific writer, but it was 4 pages. And then it grew from there. So a lot of what I learned from Jack. And then when Jack passed, and from 1999 to 2009, when Jack passed, I went to every options course he taught. I kept going back again and again and again, because I just wanted to, really make sure I understood this. But when he passed in 2009, I then turned to Pete Fortunato, and I've gone to him with my questions. And when it came down to my paperwork, I used lessons I learned from Jack. I used lessons I learned from Pete, but also I went to Dyke Spotiford and learned some things from him, and I had him look over all my documents. Once I did that, and I thought my documents were really good, I then took it to Lee Perkins, who is my real estate attorney in Cartersville, Georgia, and I had him look over my documents. And he made a couple little changes, not many. And so that's kind of how I got my paperwork together. So I use my own paperwork. But Lee Perkins, if it's going to be in Cartersville, he does the closings. But a good example is when I did the auction here in Tampa, I went to Sue Ann, and I found Sue Ann because that's been Pete's closer. In Florida, they use title companies. So that's been Pete's closer title company for many, many years. So I just went to her, but we used my documents, but she helped me modify my security deed into a mortgage so I could secure my option using a mortgage. Because, I've never done an option in Florida before. I've done options in other states, some of them being mortgage states, but I needed a mortgage specific to Florida, and that's how I got it done.
Thank you, Bill. Another question
Sure.
that popped up is, why are free and clear properties dangerous?
Well, think about it. Let's say you have a free and clear property and there's a slip and fall. And the people blame you, the owner, the landlord, the one with the deep pockets. And sure, they drank 17 beers watching the ball game, and they smoked 9 bongs of marijuana, and they were taking speed and quaaludes at the same time. And then when they went outside to check the mailbox, they fell down the stairs. But of course, that's your fault. The stair was loose. It had nothing to do with their actions. But when they go see an attorney, one of those slip and fall attorneys, one called That's All Attorneys, when they do that, the attorney is going to say, I can't believe what's happened. We're going to get you what you deserve. We'll get you $1 million. You watch and you see, boy, just sign this dotted line. The attorney's going to first go in and look the property up. And when the property sees that there's no lien against the property, in other words, it's free and clear, a lot of equity, you can almost be guaranteed that lawsuit's going to be coming right at you. But let's say when the attorney goes to look at the property, there is, let's say the property is encumbered by either a loan or something that really messes up the title, like the option. The attorney is a lot less likely to take it as a contingency fee, but instead will turn to the tenant and say, you're right, you've been wrong, I can get you $1 million. It's only a $5,000 retainer, $500 an hour. Well, the renter is not going to have that kind of money, and they go away. So there's never a lawsuit. That's why free and clear properties can be very, very dangerous, and why having the title clouded, having that equity wiped out. but with you pulling the strings, these are legit things. The loan and the option is legit, but I'm not trying to play a game here. But I just want to make sure that if someone's looking at this, they're going, this thing, yeah, there's no equity in this house, and I'm not willing to take on this lawsuit because I probably will not make any money. So I'm going to charge the tenant money to do this lawsuit, and the tenant goes away.
Got it. Thank you, Bill. I don't see any other questions. I'm going to give everybody just another minute to type any questions in. Again, these slides are added as a PDF handout. If you look in your right-hand navigation, you're going to see handouts. Drop that box down, and you're going to see the handout where you can download it for you to save. Don't forget that this webinar is also going to be, or is recorded, and the recording will be shared with all of you for registering. It's usually available within 24 hours, usually less than that, and it'll be emailed to you so you can review it, share it, whatever you like. I did have another question pop up. Will you secure your property with a memorandum of option that you record,
No,
not the whole option?
absolutely not. And the reason why is a memorandum can be closed over. And this is one of the most important lessons I learned from Pete Fortunato. I didn't learn this from Jack. I learned it from Pete. And that memorandums can be closed over the top of. However, when you use a mortgage or a deed of trust, a security deed, to secure an option, to secure a promise, it's then in the chain of title. And you better believe you will get a phone call. So every time on my options, whenever someone's going to refinance or sell a property and they kind of forgot about me, I've gotten a phone call when they were doing the title search. And so I'm not forgotten about. In other words, it can't close without me. Now, if for some reason someone does make a loan, or for some reason the property does sell, whoever's buying it or whoever the lender is doing their business subject to my option. I can still come in and buy the property and wipe them out.
Okay, Bill, I don't have any other questions. Just as a reminder, guys, the class is February 3rd and 4th, and Bill has the free options classes online. The second one is tomorrow. Go to billandkimcook.com for more information on both. Thank you so much for joining me, Bill.
Larissa, I cannot thank you. And I can only imagine how hard it is to do your deal schools that you do through Advanta, and you do them week in and week out, and they're really great classes. I know that you have them on the Advanta website and their catalog, so you can go back and listen to them. And you've had some really, really great investors that you've had present. They've shared a lot of great information. So thanks for all you do. Thanks for all Advanta does.
Oh, thank you so much, Bill. Thanks for helping us put another good one in the archive. And that is a good point. They are all archived. So if you guys want to hear more from Bill, we've actually done probably a webinar with him almost every class he's done. So you can check out advantaira.com and then go to our video catalog, or you can check us out on YouTube, and all the webinars I've done with Bill are saved there as well. So if you want to check out more, I definitely recommend it. There's more examples of options that he has done there, so you can see more samples, more examples of that. Thank you so much, Bill, and we'll talk soon.
Larissa, thank you so much. Again, thank you for all that you do.